So, in our last explainer, we dug into why your state of consciousness at the moment of death really matters. And we saw that it's not some kind of superstition or a cosmic report card, but really a principle of continuity. Well, that brings up a pretty big question, doesn't it?
Right. If that final state of mind is so important, what exactly are we supposed to be remembering? Chapter 8 of the Bhagavad Gita gives us a super clear answer, but it's almost definitely not what you think it is. And this slide really gets to the heart of it. A lot of us have this idea that the end is like a high-stakes final exam, a single terrifying pass or fail moment. But what the Gita actually describes is something totally different. It's a reflection of the life you've already lived. And trust me, that one little shift changes absolutely everything. Okay, so first things first, let's just tackle this huge misunderstanding head on. This idea that the final thought is some kind of last-ditch make-or-break effort. You know, when people hear about this, it's easy to feel this immense pressure. Like at the very end, you've got to somehow summon one perfect thought, or say just the right prayer, or make some kind of heroic final push. I mean, it sounds completely exhausting and, let's be honest, pretty terrifying. But thankfully, the Gita's actual teaching, what Krishna explains, points in a completely different direction. It's not about a final performance at all. And this redefines the whole thing. The final moment is not a moment of choice, where you consciously pick what to think about. It's a moment of pure expression. What pops into your mind then isn't something you suddenly decide on. It's just an involuntary expression of what you've become most familiar with over your entire life. So this totally reframes what we even mean by remembrance. It isn't about recalling a specific word or an image. It's about the basic orientation of your entire consciousness. It's like the direction your inner compass has been trained to point. This really lays it out perfectly. The Gita is super precise here. Remembrance isn't about, mechanically repeating a name or trying to force an image into your head while you're trying to suppress fear. No. True remembrance is the default setting of your mind. It's where your attention just naturally goes when all that conscious effort and control falls away. So the big question is, how do you program that default setting? Well, it's built over a lifetime. It's shaped by what you repeatedly give your attention to, the values that have become your habits, and what you've identified with in the long run. At the end of the day, your mind just goes back to what it knows best. And this leads us to a super critical point. What you focus on throughout your life really, really matters. The quality of your attention is literally shaped by where you point it day in and day out. The Gita draws a really clear line in the sand between two paths. When your focus is always on temporary things, possessions, status, all those unresolved desires, your mind just stays pointed outward, caught up in the chaos. But when you train your attention on more stable ground, things like inner clarity, deep understanding, the unchanging awareness underneath it all, your mind naturally turns inward, towards freedom. This isn't about belief, by the way. It's just a description of the mechanics of how consciousness works. Which brings us to what might be the single most important insight in this entire chapter. The final thought isn't something you pull out of a hat at the last second. It is the cumulative result of your daily life. It's built thought by thought, action by action, day after day.
So what does this training actually look like in real life? Well, every time you catch yourself lost in thought and just gently come back to the present moment, you're training remembrance. Every time you consciously let go of an attachment, or act without your ego driving the bus, or even just work to stabilize your focus, you're doing the work. Death doesn't demand some heroic act. It just reveals the practice you've already put in. And this is what makes the teaching so humane, so empowering, instead of being scary. It shifts the whole focus away from some terrifying, unknown event in the future to the one thing you actually have control over, your attention and your actions, right here and right now. So often, this teaching gets twisted around to create a ton of anxiety, but the Gita's actual message is the complete opposite. It's saying, don't fixate on death. Don't live in fear of the end. The real instruction isn't to worry about dying. It's to live attentively now. That's the real practice. And here's the beautiful part. When you live your life with clarity, with a real quality of attention, that final remembrance just becomes a natural, effortless flow. The fear starts to fade because the end isn't a test anymore.
It's just the next step on a path you've been consciously walking this whole time. I want you to let this one really sink in. Your final moment is going to reflect the quality of your lifelong attention, not how much you worried about it. This insight just lifts that whole burden of fear and puts the power squarely back in your hands for this moment right now.
So there you have it. Chapter 8 completely dismantles that myth of the last-minute fix. It shows us that what really matters at the end is simply what mattered to you consistently through your life. And that leaves us all with a pretty simple question. What mattered in your life today? In our next explainer, we're going to decode how time, different paths, and cosmic cycles are described in the Gita, and find out why liberation isn't about timing your exit, but about profound understanding.